Have you ever listened to an interview or a podcast where the host asks the interviewee, what would you do today if you had to start your business from scratch with zero list and zero money and zero connections? It's the famous internet marketing question, and this video answers that question. Because if I were starting today from scratch on today's internet, I would focus on building my personal brand, which is who I am, what I offer, and how I reach my customers, or what some people commonly call a platform, which is what you stand on to reach people. And the good news is that there are only 7 steps to creating your personal brand. But the bad news is that if you skip any of these steps, you're gonna find yourself struggling. So if you're currently struggling, or asking yourself the question, how do I stand out? How do I get seen? How do I build my audience? How do I get more customers? Then this may be why you may have skipped one or more of these steps. So if you want to create the kind of platform that's going to allow yourself to build any size business that you want now and in the future, with greater ease and greater grace, then watch this video to the very end. My name is Marisa Murgatroyd, and I'm the founder of Live Your Message, which is on the Inc. 5000 list of fastest growing companies in America. And I've helped over 10,000 online entrepreneurs build their business successfully in a way that feels good and fulfilling to them. But like anyone and everyone, I started from zero. Maybe not exactly zero, because the day that I was born, my father started mutual funds for my college education, and he raised me telling me I could go anywhere I wanted because he believed that the right college education was like my golden ticket to the future that I always wanted. So I took full advantage of the opportunity, and I went to the Ivy League, and I worked my butt off to graduate from honors, and when I graduated, I couldn't even get a job. So I learned the hard way that it's not what I know, it's not my credibility, it's not my expertise. It's really what I can do for other people. Because one of the things that you gotta understand is that when people ask you what you do, they're really asking you, what can you do for me? And that leads me to the 7 simple steps for creating your online brand. Now, the very first step is what you do. So you still have to know what you do. You start from what you do. The problem is most people start and stop with what they do, thinking about, okay, I'm a web designer, or I'm a photographer, or I'm a life coach, or I'm an electrical engineer, or whatever it happens to be that you are in life. And most people think that the skills, the expertise themselves, is their golden ticket to the future. Now, it is important to find your what, the thing that you want to spend the next few years doing, of getting really, really good at and getting paid for and cultivating that. But you could have the best what in the world, the best expertise in the world, and still have no brand and no business, because people aren't paying you for your expertise. They're not paying you for what you can do. They're paying you for what you can do for them, which is where the next step comes in, which is really understanding who it is that you serve. Because here's the thing, the more you can specialize in delivering your products or services to a particular kind of person, the better. Because for the most part, one size fits all fits nobody. And I'm 4'11" and a quarter, and I'm half Asian, and I just don't fit one size fits all. So a lot of times when you can become a specialist, not just in what you do, but in who you serve, all of a sudden, bada bing, bada boom, you're in business. Because people feel like you cannot just do what you do, but you can do it for them. And a lot of times the reason that people don't buy is because they don't believe that you can really help them. So when you specialize not just in a what, but you specialize in a who, that really starts to give you momentum that most people don't have. So the first 2 steps in building your personal brand is getting super clear on your what and on the who. And together, that brings us to our 3rd step, which is your niche. And this graphic that you see here on the screen is my Experience Business Blueprint. And it's all about tuning into the intersections of your niche, your value, your tribe, which give rise to your brand. So the first 6 steps are really all about defining these first pieces. And then the 7th step is all about how do you get your brand out there based on the clarity that's formed through these 6 steps. So can you see that when you understand not just what you do, but who you serve, so you've got a powerful and defined niche, Then you're ready to focus on step number 4, which makes you different. But before we go into step number 4, what makes you different, let me talk a little bit more about niching. So a lot of people start broad. They want to be Tony Robbins, and Tony Robbins' message is hugely broad. It's amazingly broad. But Tony Robbins has been around for like 20, 30 years, and he's already famous. So he can say anything, and you're going to want to go to a Tony Robbins event because of the reputation he has and, the fame that he's built up along the way. But if you're just getting started, you can't market like Tony Robbins. So a lot of times you want to focus on a more tightly targeted niche, kind of a narrow niche. And when you start narrow and then you start to gain fame and success and credibility in the small niche, you can often start to go broader from there. And here's the thing, let me tell you a story from the world of film and entertainment, which is where I started my career. And it relates to the film Napoleon Dynamite. Now, most studios don't have the budget to market a film to the entire population, especially an independent studio like Fox Searchlight Pictures. So what do you think Fox did? What was their marketing strategy? They decided to go after, guess, nerds and geeks. And they thought if they could market this film to the whole, population of nerds and geeks that would resonate with being like Napoleon Dynamite, then they could really start to catch fire, and these nerds and geeks would start talking about it to everybody else, and they would do what's called crossing over, creating a crossover hit that would then spread to the wider population. So niching is kind of like that. The more you can start narrow, the more you can really go deep and start to gain a following in the small niche, and then create the crossover hit to go broader. Tony Robbins didn't start as broad as he was. He crossed over after he gained success. Because here's the thing, being internet famous and building that successful personal brand online, it's very different than being Hollywood famous. So being Hollywood famous is you go out on the street and people recognize you. Now, even though I've got a pretty good-sized following and have a $7 million a year business, very few people recognize me when I go out in the street. I don't get recognized at the supermarket. I only get recognized when I'm at an industry event or conference where my audience is there. So being internet famous is becoming famous and loved by a small group of people who want what you do and who are your target audience. You become recognized and loved and famous to your niche, not necessarily to the whole wide world. So if becoming spotted in the street is overwhelming to you, don't worry, because that's not going to happen necessarily when you build a personal brand. So we've covered the first 3 steps, which is what you do, who you serve, and your niche. Now let me talk about the next step, which is really tuning into what makes you different. Because here's the thing, there may be a lot more people in this big old internet that do what you do and that serve the kind of people that you want to serve. So your niche is not necessarily unique. You can be targeted, but it's not necessarily unique. Sometimes it's unique, but a lot of times niches that already have successful people in it are the best niches because they're successful because there's an audience and a market and demand for what you do. Make sense? So you're not necessarily going for originality in those core building blocks of your personal brand, the what you do and the who you serve and your niche. But this piece of how you're different is where you start to get that differentiation of trying to stand out from the noise of the billions of other websites online and really tune into what it is about you that's different. Now, a lot of times people think about differentiation in this kind of knee-jerk way, and they dye their hair bright pink or purple or whatever it happens to be, and that's not necessarily what makes you different. So there's a lot of things that make you different, but you want to look at what makes you different in 2 specific areas. One is what makes you different in relation to what you do, which is the unique value you provide, the next step, and the other is what makes you different in relationship to who you serve, which relates a lot more to your tone and spirit and personality and your energy and your personal story and all of that. So instead of just looking at what makes you different, right? Because it's really about looking at what makes you different in a way that's relevant to your audience. Let's start with the next step, which is what makes you different in relation to your products, your services, what you do. Now, this is where you want to tune into a signature system or framework or unique way of delivering a result or a different, better result than anybody else can do. This is where you tune into that thing. So for example, I created what's called the Experience Formula, and it's a unique way to create online courses that get 10 to 30 times more people to engage and complete your course, which means your refunds go way down and your repeat sales and your referrals go way up. And when I tuned into this, we were able to sell something like $10 million in this product, right? Because that was my differentiation. Not only did I know what I do, which is helping people create online courses, or who I served, which is online course creators or people who want to create a course, I had a unique value proposition of how my method for teaching you how to create online courses is different, right? So that's the next step, which is understanding the value, which is the intersection of what you do and how you're different. And then the step after that is understanding your tribe. And your tribe is how you're different to the kinds of people that you serve. So here's the thing. Not everybody wants to work with me or take my products and take my services. I tend to work with people who genuinely care about getting results for their students, their clients, and the customers. People who want to do good by everyone. So my business is live your message, right? And one of the ways that I'm different is I kind of stand for a more conscious approach to doing business and to doing marketing that's customer first, that's really focusing on the value you bring to the world in a unique way, but doing it in a way that's genuinely of service to people. It's not just, turning them upside down and shaking them till their wallet comes out and taking as much as you can and then delivering as little as possible for it. That's not my audience. My audience deeply cares. They've got values related to service and values related to impact and values related to making a difference. So part of that tribe that I attract is not just online entrepreneurs, but it's online entrepreneurs who want to use who they are and what they do to make a difference in the world. And of course, that relates to the stories that I tell and the way that I show up and how I dress and the look and the feel of my brand and my website and all of that. So that's the sixth element of your personal brand, which is that kind of tribal distinction. So when you have a powerful niche, a powerful value proposition, and you're really building a tribe, not just an audience, not just a generic set of demographic details of serving women over 60 or whatever it happens to be, but it's serving women over 60 who really want to make a difference in the world through what they do. That gets us to having a brand. You really start to stand for something in the hearts and minds of your audience. So your brand isn't necessarily just what you say about yourself, but it's what other people say about you through getting these first 6 areas right, and then consistently conveying those brand signals through everything that you do. Now, brand is not, though, just the emergent factor of these 6 things, but a brand can't exist if you don't have these 6 things in place and you don't have clarity on those 6 things. And by the way, if you want my support in getting clarity on those 6 things, because while these are simple steps, it's not easy to really get clarity on this. Many people spend years in business without getting clear on these 6 things, which is why they struggle to build their brand and build their online business, because they're out doing step number 7, which I'm about to talk about in a second, but they're not doing these first 6 foundational steps that really form the basis of a brand. And then when you have the basis of the brand, you can go out there and market and spread the word about your brand in step 7. So if you want support in really figuring out those first 6 steps, then I want to invite you to my event, Live Your Message Live, which I do once a year. And I used to only do this event live in person in Los Angeles. And now I'm doing this event live online on the internet from anywhere in the world that you are. So you can have that opportunity to tune into these 6 essential pieces. Because when you have those pieces, then you get to really start to build the brand. You've created the brand through the first 6 steps, and you build the brand through the 7th step. And this is where you choose what I call your methods of mass influence. And this is where you start to expand your reach and really build your platform. So what you want to do is you want to choose 1 to 3 methods of mass influence, which are the ways that you grow and nurture your audience on a consistent weekly basis. So for example, doing YouTube videos every week or ideally 3 times a week or even every day would be a method of mass influence. I also blog That's a method of mass influence. So those are two of my biggest methods of mass influence. So you want to figure out what are yours, what are the ones that take advantage of your unique gifts and really support you in reaching your audience and talking about what it is that you do and how it is that you're different. And then once you choose your 1 to 3 methods of building and nurturing your audience, you want to choose 1 to 3 methods of launching and selling your products and your services. So how you launch and sell your products and services are different than how you grow and nurture your audience over time. So you want to do 1 to 3 of each kind. Now, a lot of people make the mistake of just trying to grow and nurture an audience, but they're not launching to that audience. Or people try to launch, but then they don't have an audience to launch to. So you really want to do 1 to 3 of each kinds of methods. Now, the third way to build your brand is to do some kind of email or retargeting that allows you to stay in consistent touch with your audience beyond them finding you on social media or whatever it happens to be, where you're able to move them through your world and offer them products and services, get them into the launch, which you chose in that second set there. So those are the 7 steps to creating your personal brand. So step number 1 is really clarifying what you do. Step number 2 is clarifying who you serve. Step number 3 is bringing those 2 things together and really clarifying your niche and ideally going narrow before you go broad. Step number 4 is starting to understand how you're different and then figuring out the differentiation in relation to what you do, your value, and in relation to who you serve, your tribe, to create the emergent of your brand. And then once you've got the brand created, you want to build the brand by choosing 1 to 3 methods of mass influence in terms of growing and nurturing your tribe, and 1 to 3 methods for launching your products and services and really starting to make money, and then choosing some form of email or retargeting to stay in touch with your audience beyond social media and beyond the launches and to move people through your world so they buy from you over and over and over again, and you can inspire more people to buy from you more often at higher and higher price points. So that, my friends, are the 7 simple steps for building your personal brand. I hope to see you at Live Your Message Live. Just go to liveyourmessagelive.com to sign up for your ticket. And I've got a couple more things, a couple more free videos and trainings for you to help you start building that personal brand today. How to become a successful entrepreneur and how to make your 1-year success plan. So I recommend watching those videos now so you can keep going on this path of building that personal brand, building that platform that's going to allow you to create any size business that you want this year. Now go out there and live your message.